When you think of the vast open sea, do you get a sinking feeling? Does the thought of a monstrous behemoth hiding in the waves beneath you like a dark silhouette terrify you beyond belief? How about half-submerged, rusted objects, or a sinkhole reminiscent of nothing except its own inky black depth? The world is full of phobias, a word derived from the Greek word phobos, for fear, and there's plenty of them where the sea is concerned. Assuming you are aware that the ocean is the most terrifying place on the planet, enjoy these 8 rational and irrational fears of what might lurk below. 8. Aquaphobia. A fear of water. A majority of people hold some degree of legitimate fear when it comes to water. After all, oftentimes, you can't see what lies beneath the water's edge. Not to mention currents and tides are so powerful, they'll sweep you under in a moment's notice. Most of us learn to cope with those fears, but for those with aquaphobia, or the fear of water, they struggle with a persistent and abnormal level of anxiety and fear that prevents them from even getting close to water. These spaces of liquid include everything from a puddle to a bathtub, swimming pool, lake, and without a doubt, the deep blue sea. Those that suffer from this social phobia conjure up gut-wrenching images of dying in water, drowning, gasping for breath, being pulled under, or encountering eerie, unseen things such as snakes or sharks looming under the surface. 7. Hydrophobia. A fear of water after rabies. Aquaphobia and hydrophobia are often confused, despite their wild difference. While the former is something usually formed early on in life or due to a traumatic experience in childhood, this next phobia is an extreme aversion to and fear of water that develops in a human during the later stages of rabies. The disease is extremely serious, and once symptoms appear, the result is nearly always death. 6. Caporophobia. A fear of crabs. Crabs are like spiders of the sea. So it makes sense that there would be a phobia classifying the fear of these creepy, clawed crawlers that dwell on the bottom of the seafloor, or in the crevices of rocks. Caporophobia is an extremely rare phobia that was brought to the public's attention when a famous pop singer stated she was deeply afraid of crabs, and even wrote a song about it. Shortly afterward, attention was further sparked after a video went viral showing a terrified man surrounded by lobsters. But that's a whole other phobia. Before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe to What Lurks Below and hit the bell to get notified of future releases. 5. Ostraconophobia. A fear of shellfish. Caporophobia is very specific, relating to crabs. Yet it can also be a part of a wider phobia called ostraconophobia, which is the fear of crustaceans. Add shrimp, oysters, clams, crabs, lobsters, etc. into the mix, and you've got a legitimate fear of anything with beady eyes, hard-shelled bodies, tiny claws, and like to dwell, pretty harmlessly, at the bottom of the sea. A shellfish phobia can be broken down into several common themes. For example, some people are deeply afraid of food poisoning, while others fear they might unknowingly break their religious dietary restrictions. Sometimes people simply have a fear of the texture or taste of the food itself. The phobia is legitimate for those who have an allergy to shellfish, as for them, such contact can be deadly. However, many individuals have found themselves afraid of developing an allergic reaction to shellfish, even if they have never had an allergy before. Surely this level of paranoia makes life so much less fun. 4. Ichthyophobia. A fear of fish. Most everyone has a fear of sharks, so the phobia called galleophobia makes perfect sense. But to be afraid of fish? Oftentimes, individuals are afraid of small and seemingly harmless fish in rivers, lakes, or the sea. Even a koi fish in a pond may trigger a terrible reaction at the sight of the scaly swimmer. They imagine being surrounded by dozens of tiny, slimy, and fast-moving creatures, to the point it causes uncontrollable anxiety. This irrational and persistent fear originates due to psychological factors that can leave a person being afraid of both dead and living fish. When you have a sudden panic attack at the sight or the thought of a fish, surely this can have a negative impact on one's social life. 3. Naviphobia. A fear of boats. Did you know that according to the National Institute of Mental Health, specific phobias affect 19.2 million adults in the United States? People are afraid of a numerous amount of things, even harmless boats. Latin for ship, vessel, or boat, naviphobia is the fear of boats or large cruise ships. This intense fear is often triggered due to past negative experiences at sea, such as getting extremely seasick or being on a boat that has capsized. Another huge trigger stems from losing loved ones to boating tragedies or hearing about boat deaths or a ship sinking. Such events, such as the historical mishap of the RMS Titanic, has since induced a deep fear in people, and they will merely avoid boats at all costs. Symptoms of this phobia result in intense dizziness and the surging sense of an inability to escape. 2. Thalassophobia. A fear of deep water. A phobia is characterized as an irrational fear, which means that usually what you're afraid of is highly unlikely to harm you. Yet the ocean is one of the most terrifying places on the planet, and not even the most experienced team of scientists know everything about it. When you swim in the ocean, do you avoid going too far out in the water? Do you keep your knees close to your chest out of fear something could brush up against you or pull you under? Then you have Thalassophobia. This is the acute definition for being deathly terrified of large, deep, dark bodies of water. The sensation is triggered by the stimulus of not knowing what mysteries may be looming right below you. Not to be confused with the fear of water itself, Thalassophobia is the actual fear of what's hiding within the water. And we all know it could be anything, from a shark to a slimy sea creature to an old rusted propeller that can catch hold of your suit and pull you under. Swimmers, beware. 1. Submechanophobia. A fear of objects in water. Are you scared of murky water with strange silhouettes of objects in it? Are you creeped out by barnacles and algae stuck to metal? If partly submerged substances in water give you the heebie-jeebies, then you may suffer from some form of submechanophobia. In other words, you can't stand man-made objects stuck in water, such as buoys, shipwrecks, and the underwater part of a ship's hull, or even just a piece of old metal sitting at the bottom of the sea. We've shown you several fears associated with the ocean and ships, as well as the fear of drowning or dangerous animals lurking within. And those fears may all be rational and traced to understandable outcomes. Submechanophobia, however, is a highly irrational aversion, triggered by even the smallest, most harmless objects in water, such as a child's doll lodged within a rock, or even an old boot covered in barnacles at the bottom of the sea. So the next time you break out in a sweat when swimming next to a big ship or boat, diving under a craft, seeing photos of stilted objects lodged into the seafloor, or the thought of getting sucked under by the propellers, just know you're not alone. Do you have any of the phobias mentioned in this video? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to What Lurks Below.